Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar that will cover everything you need to know about Microsoft Sentinel. We'll make a formal start in a few minutes' time, but while we wait for any latecomers, I'd just like to introduce Netitude, HTG, and our three speakers for today. Netitude is an award-winning provider of cybersecurity services, bringing innovative thought leadership to the ever-evolving cybersecurity marketplace. Through their research and innovation centres, they provide threat-led services that span technical assurance, consulting, and managed detection and response offerings. HTG are our partner and have a close working relationship with Microsoft and are a Microsoft Gold partner, as well as an Azure Virtual Desktop Advanced Specialist partner. In acquiring this status, they have consistently demonstrated they meet the highest standard of Microsoft's widely recognised partnership programme. We have three speakers who'll be talking to you at various stages during this webinar today. The first is Alan McBurney, the Technical Director for HTG. He's responsible for providing the technical leadership and direction for the business. He's been working in the IT space for over 25 years in managed services, customer solutions, and cloud transformations. He is a Microsoft Cloud and Sentinel expert and has played a leading role in designing and implementing disruptive and innovative solutions, which have gone on to be successfully taken to the market. Andrew Winters is the Global Head of Managed Security Services at Netitude. He is responsible for the design, technical direction, and delivery of all global managed security services. He's been working within IT networks and security for 23 years now, from the UK military, NATO, and various enterprise environments, with a specialism in technical service and operational delivery at scale. He is passionate about cybersecurity and delivering client success through value-driven services and security solutions. And last but not least, we have Gil Warner, who's our key account manager at Netitude. He has a strong background in SOC sales and has been with the business for over 9 years now. And he'll be the one taking you through the commercial options and considerations for Sentinel today. A little bit of housekeeping. So after the webinar, you will receive a survey via email asking your feedback. It only takes 2 minutes to complete, and obviously we would very much appreciate your time in doing this. For those of you who have ticked the necessary GDPR boxes, on Tuesday you will receive a second email, which will include the slide deck from today and a link to the recording. If you've already stated you'd rather not hear from Netitude or HTG, but decide during the presentation you want to change your mind and would quite like to receive a copy of the deck and the recording, if you just leave your name in the chat box at any time during the recording, we'll make sure that reaches you. We won't be running a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, but if you would like to ask a question, we'd very much encourage you to do so by leaving it in the chat box, again, at any time during the webinar. Or if you prefer, you can do this via your survey response, and we will respond to every question as soon as possible. And finally, if you do experience any technical issues, such as a loss of sound, if you email marketing@netitude.com, we have someone standing by just in case you need any support there. And lastly, thank you on behalf of Netitude and HTG for taking the time to attend our webinar today. And I will now hand you over to Andrew Winters.
Hi audience, hi everyone. Really nice to meet you and to have the opportunity to present to you today on Sentinel and why we believe this is a key market changer. So next slide please for me. So to start with, I mean, please feel free to have a read of the content on the slides, and I'm going to talk to you as you maybe have a read around Sentinel and give some key information. So to start answering the first question, what is Microsoft Sentinel? Microsoft Sentinel was released in 2019, and since its release has come a very, very long way in a very, very short period of time. Sentinel is a cloud native application built within Azure, providing a sophisticated security, incident and event management system with a sophisticated SOAR capability. This brings with it the benefits, the flexibility of a cloud service, and from managing IT systems for a number of years, that comes with the further benefits of no hardware, no patching, updates, scaling issues, which are ever present in the pace of today's digital worlds and the threats that we consistently face, trying to ensure our security systems are maintained and can grow with a rapidly and ever-evolving changing landscape. It combines the latest in security innovations and advanced technologies in the likes of highly customizable SOAR, threat intelligence, built-in analytics, and machine learning to help organizations and security teams both protect and respond to today's ever-evolving cyber threats. Next slide, please. Why Microsoft Sentinel? This is a really big question, and I'll encourage you to have a read of the data on the slides, but I'll go back a few years in the industry first before we move on to why Microsoft Sentinel in today's marketplace. So before we can ask this question of why Microsoft Sentinel, we should firstly revisit how our technology and security landscape has changed rapidly over a number of years. A typical SIEM platform's primary role is to collect security-related logs and events within a centralized repository. The SIEM systems then correlate and combine hundreds and thousands of these events for our staff, our activity produced within our businesses and our digital systems to provide a summary view for human consumption. The role of a SIEM platform is absolutely crucial in today's digital world, as no person or team could perform the functionality using only human efforts. As the security landscape has consistently and rapidly changed over a number of years in quite a short period, this has led to problems that SIEM systems and security systems couldn't simply cope with the workloads. These issues that have been paramount and encountered within the market through the evolution have then led to the need to orchestrate actions and events that SIEM solutions provide. And this has led to customers seeking new and innovative ways of automation as a way to lower cost and also to bring speedier resolutions to security threats. Over this time, dedicated tools have been designed and evolved to work with SIEM solutions and deliver security orchestration and automation. But in the past and in the historic past, these have been separate tools such as Demisto. The more mature SIEM providers in the market have had to evolve their products to include security and automation features with the likes of Splunk Phantom, IBM Resilient within the QRadar platform. And this has meant that solutions are more complex with ever increasing costs for organizations. And it brings with it difficulties of associated multiple toolings and technologies. How are these supported and managed properly by our teams? These tools combined, when implemented correctly, have allowed security teams to provide an automated response to ever increasing threats and issues that we face within the landscape. And the role of security is ever important against today's threats and early problems, with the continual evolution of both the industry, regulations, and these have given new rise to new problems for security teams in the likes of data protection and residency, threat intelligence-led security requirements to ensure that we're staying on top of and ahead of the latest attacker techniques. So these requirements then need to leverage data, analytics, and artificial intelligence to protect against these continually and evolving threats that we have to tackle every day within our industry. Microsoft have delivered a solution in Sentinel that shows it's not just listened to the needs of security experts, but it's also learned from the evolution of key security players and solutions in the market, with a single solution that can resolve all of these needs and problems that I've just discussed with you. We've been and tackled these problems over a number of years with these different solutions. Microsoft has now delivered an all-in-one solution that can enable and help us all to provide better and more sophisticated security defense services for our organizations. Sentinel can deliver data residency and granular control of logs in any global region, flexibly, that can be consumed and scaled in line with business requirements. This means the data doesn't leave your environment, it's remaining within a business's complete control. This is a huge regulatory driver. Sentinel comes equipped with machine learning capabilities. These use learning algorithms to correlate millions of events and alerts and are designed specifically to help reduce alert fatigue in security teams. This has been done with what Microsoft calls Fusion ML, and it is proprietary to the Sentinel platform and has been designed specifically in aiding security teams be more successful and efficient in stopping cyber attacks. And it actually does present alert fatigue by the way that the system uses its capability. It presents alerts and events in a correlated way that makes it easier for analysts and security defenders to respond to those events quickly. Sentinel delivers very sophisticated and highly customizable orchestration and automation capability through the use of Visual Logic apps. The MITRE ATT&CK framework. Everybody on this call will have heard of the MITRE ATT&CK framework. It's a de facto standard in the industry in assessing tactics, techniques, and procedures that are used by attackers. Sentinel has built this within the solution to aid in providing sophisticated mapping of detection capabilities against the latest threats. The MITRE ATT&CK framework is an ever-evolving framework that continually gets bigger, and to keep up with that attack framework requires sophisticated tools to monitor, detect, and respond. Sentinel provides unified data collection. It's the capability and customization to ingest and correlate data from huge scale of technologies and systems, whether on-premise or cloud-based. Microsoft Sentinel doesn't even charge you to ingest the data into the Azure environment. They simply charge for the storage and analytics of this data. Microsoft has also clearly recognized in this solution the need to be able to provide security for other public cloud providers with native integrations to things like AWS CloudTrail. Threat intelligence. Threat intelligence-led security is something that Netitude have been working on and been delivering for a number of years, but it's absolutely key in enriching the view that analysts can see so that they get a true picture of security issues within a customer's environment. Sentinel has built in the ability to easily integrate numerous open source and common threat intelligence vendors' capabilities, combined with the global leverage and shared 8 trillion threat indicators that make for a really powerful threat-led response in protecting your organization. Next slide, please, Gary. So I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of some of the key technology components within the Microsoft Sentinel system, just to give you an overview of how the system's delivered. So log analytics is the backbone behind Microsoft Sentinel. Log analytics is effectively the object that retains and stores the ingested log data, ready for Sentinel to then analyze and detect the threats and anomalies across your environment. Log archive features. Sentinel's got log archive feature, and there's a bit that's been allowed and engineered for extensive log retention, customizable to the customer needs, to ensure that we maintain overall compliance with regulation, while also being able to keep costs at minimum levels as we can utilize other Azure ecosystem components to achieve better hot, cold archive and storage tiers of our critical log data. Workbooks provide us actionable, continuous insights into log management posture, simple steps for remediation. Analytics rules ensure compliance by tracking agent, asset data, connector health, and other key metrics that matter to both the business and security teams. It allows us to perform hunting queries in a very easy fashion within the platform, allows us to hunt for indicators of compromise that aren't normally found by standard security tools. It enables security experts to leverage the power of the platform in looking for these issues within customers' environments. And another one of the strong, powerful features is playbooks. We've already talked around SOAR and the need for security orchestration and automation in today's world. The playbooks built within the platform that leverage and interconnect with every other operating component drive an automated, a consistent response, ensuring security teams can focus their time on what's important across a customer security environment. Playbooks are built using Logic apps, and they have extensive integrations with several other key security tools and products. And Microsoft has built all of these technology components together from the ground up. This hasn't been an evolution whereby one of the old key players that we could talk around has maybe added capability into their product. Microsoft has designed this as an ecosystem with all the capabilities that an organization and security providers would need in providing these solutions to customers. The technological capabilities that the platform provides are an all-in-one, easy to use and consume platform for protecting against security threats. But be under no illusion, while Sentinel is very easy to turn on within Azure, this won't and will not protect your organization using out-of-the-box configurations. Costs can also quickly grow without the correct security expertise and the teams with the knowledge to configure the multiple components and create sophisticated detection and response alarms and techniques that are fit for purpose within your environment. And we have to remember here, it's very easy to turn on a security tool, but threat detection and threat mapping against a customer's environment is absolutely vital. A sophisticated tool still requires expert knowledge in how to realize the true value and potential of this platform. So before we go on to the next slide, I'm going to hand over to Alan McBurney shortly, who's going to give us an overview of the Microsoft Defender suite. But I'm just going to finish off. Cybersecurity and the potential business crippling threats like ransomware and data theft that we continually face today is not an easy task. It's an ever-changing landscape as sophisticated attackers leverage new vulnerabilities and TTPs daily. No vendor or single tool can provide you with complete security. However, Microsoft have hit the ground running in a very short time with a SIEM, SOAR and threat-led data analytics platform in Sentinel that leverages lessons learned from older security vendors' tools and the way the market has moved. With additional enhanced capabilities combined with industry ratings in the top right Magic Gartner quadrant. This is also backed by Microsoft's strategic multi-billion-pound investment strategy in the continual development of these security tools, along with the vision of seamlessly supporting and monitoring other clouds like AWS CloudTrail. And from our experience and what we can see of the market, we think this is a pretty smart move by Microsoft, knowing that a large percentage of the public cloud share is not just with Azure. It's sophisticated and it's highly capable. We don't just sell this technology either. Netitude and HTG use this technology to protect ourselves. Over to you, Alan.
Thanks, Andy. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're coming from. My name is Alan McBurney and I am the Technical Director at HTG. And what I would like to talk to you about today is Microsoft security capabilities and about the Defender family in particular. So Microsoft has been through a number of name changes, and late last year they finally settled on Microsoft Defender consistently across all their Microsoft kind of security tools. And there's really two products when it comes to the Defender suite. You've got Microsoft 365 Defender, and if you look at the graphic on the screen at the minute, the Microsoft 365 Defender is about securing your end users. So that's about taking telemetry from your users, from your sign-in logs, from your endpoints, etc., from your cloud applications. And the second part of that puzzle is to do with Defender for Cloud. So we're taking the your multi-cloud environment, your hybrid cloud environment, or your Azure environment, and we're taking your infrastructure and bringing that in. So Andy has given a very good overview on what Sentinel can do, but Sentinel needs the logs to come to be ingested into Sentinel so that you can make some use of what's going on across your environment. Microsoft doesn't just provide first-party connectors in Sentinel, it provides third-party connectors as well. I think today there's something like 120 connectors, both first-party and third-party, that you can hook into Sentinel. We're going to look at Microsoft's native capabilities today with Defender itself. So when we look at Microsoft 365 Defender, really there's four products within Microsoft 365 Defender, which is Defender for Endpoint, which is their enhanced antivirus detection capabilities. You will get XDR capabilities within inside of this. You will get threat analytics and hunting. We will get Defender for Identity. So Defender for Identity is about securing on-premises Active Directory and taking the telemetry from that and bringing it into Microsoft's cloud platform. We will also get Defender for cloud applications, and whether that's from SharePoint or safe links or spam and phishing coming from Exchange Online. And we will finally take the Defender for Cloud Apps itself. And the Defender for Cloud Apps is about other SaaS-based applications where you can do the discovery. Off that, you can do protection, we can do sanctioning, and we can do blocking across that as well. So with these Microsoft 365 Defender products, Microsoft has uniquely combined the telemetry and security signals across this suite, and is able to take these, hook them into Microsoft Sentinel, and apply logic and threats and analytics around it. The same can happen for Defender for Cloud. The logs will be ingested, and Sentinel will have a number of inbuilt alerts and playbooks and security mechanisms which will actually surface this to the top of the funnel for us. If we could move forward, please, to the next slide. So why Microsoft? So Microsoft historically had a pretty bad rep inside the security industry. Their products weren't, when you think about where Microsoft came from and their on-premises pedigree, their antivirus wasn't a great solution. But as Microsoft had pivoted and become a cloud-first company, their security offering today is absolutely phenomenal. I remember I was sitting in Atlanta at a Microsoft partner conference. I think it was back in 2017. I was in the auditorium, and Microsoft were presenting their vision on security, and my jaw literally hit the floor when I seen what they were doing with this. And where we are today, Microsoft are probably 5 years down this journey, and really you've got this disruptive technology coming from Microsoft Sentinel. You've got the ability to import all the very rich signals and telemetry coming from Microsoft's other clouds, from 365, from Azure. You've got the backing of that across Microsoft Security Intelligence Graph with the number of signals coming in there. And you really do have a very, very compelling security solution. And it's not just mine or Andy's kind of word you take for this. If you take a look at the industry leaders in terms of Gartner's Magic Quadrant, and you'll take a look at Forrester's Wave reports. Today, Microsoft sits as a leader across 9 different Forrester Wave reports, with a huge number of that within inside the security. At the end of the slide deck, there actually are some links to both the Forrester and the Gartner reports. I would encourage everybody to take a look at that. And within inside the Magic Quadrant from Gartner, Microsoft is a leader across 4 industries, and 3 of those are again in the security. So if you have any kind of preconceived notions about Microsoft not being a secure, growing up security provider, I would urge you to take a look again, because they really are phenomenal what they're doing today, and completely disruptive. That's probably all I want to speak about on Defender today. I'm going to hand across to Gil Warner.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Gary, if we could just go into the next slide, please. So the considerations to make when you're considering a managed partner are quite simple. If there's already somebody with Microsoft Sentinel in the organization, then it's quite a clear conversation to have, to be perfectly honest. It's easy to turn the Sentinel solution on, but the key difference here is that that's just the ingestion of the logs. There's no security solution being provided around that. There's no detection around those logs. So that's the key salient point to make. Is very easy to turn this service on, but it's very, very different to it being a service that can provide security prevention around threats to an organization and give you the detection that an organization is looking for. If you guys currently have a deployment that is ongoing, or you have a deployment that has already been finalized within the organization, NetTude and HTG can work together to help you look at how you may want to review a completed deployment, or we can certainly help you to deploy an existing project to make sure that it's deployed correctly, the architecture and the configuration and all of the detection capabilities are functioning within that service. And again, this is something that we see time and time again within Netitude, and it's a question that we're asked around all of our SOC services. Is this not just something that we can do ourselves? So Sentinel is a very, very complex product. It's very difficult to understand for the product and to make sure that this is configured within the organization in the correct manner. Trying to get this to work in the correct manner can overwhelm any size of security team, regardless of the resource that an organization has to put into place. The sheer volume of alerts and alarms that will come through to the organization if this isn't configured in the correct way will overwhelm the team and will ultimately lead to burning that team out potentially. The problem with that you'll see is if it isn't configured and implemented correctly in the right way, upon being a drain of resource from a human perspective, they're going to incur escalating costs on very, very quickly within the organization. So the cost of having the service turned on without it being configured correctly, without it being understood by the team that's managing it, is just going to see the cost spiral for the organization. So when you take Sentinel out of the box, you just want to turn this on and deploy the service. The out of the box detection rules are very good, very solid, but until they're tailored and they're working correctly for the organization, you're not going to maximize the potential that Sentinel has as a service. So there's tools in there such as the KQL queries to use those in the correct manner and have those customized in the correct manner for the business. It's going to take a deep level of defensive security knowledge, and that's not something that organizations are necessarily going to have within the business. So again, you're not maximizing the return on investment by turning Sentinel on within the organization. Gary, if we can just go to the next slide, please. So Alan, this is over to you.
Yeah, so in terms of Sentinel's licensing and consumption, Andy had alluded at the kind of top of the webinar where the costs come from. So Microsoft Sentinel is built on top of Microsoft's log analytics platform within inside Azure. And what we need to do is we need to license both Sentinel and the log analytics. And it's not, there's a fixed cost in terms of the ingestion. So to start with, Sentinel is charged as a pay-as-you-go rate. And that pay-as-you-go depends on the geography you're coming from, but within inside the UK here, the ingestion rates for log analytics is around about £1.80 per gigabyte. Pay-as-you-go rates will be there until you're ingesting more than 100 gigabytes per day. And depending on the number of data sources that you're connecting, so when you're taking Microsoft's native connectors, there can be quite a volume of data coming through from, for example, Microsoft Defender for Endpoints, raw data logs coming in. But it's when you're connecting up other third parties and bringing in firewall logs and potentially other sys logs and more and more third parties, you do have the ability for Sentinel to kind of get out of control. So one of the things where Netitude actually, with running a SOC, Netitude understand the signals and the telemetry they need to ingest into the SOC to actually protect the environment. And they're able to tune the environment with the exact signals which are coming into it. The pay-as-you-go tier, as I say, is there up until 100 gigabytes per day coming in, and then you will go on the commitment tiers. And then the commitment tiers, you've got a potential saving of around about 65%, depending on the tier you move on to. But it's that kind of stepped pricing which Microsoft will do. There's a number of free data sources as well, and I think Andy had mentioned this as well, so that if you are bringing things like Microsoft Defender for Cloud and you're protecting your Azure servers, then you'll get something like 500 megabytes per data per day for the ingestion of those logs coming from Azure. If you have Microsoft 365 E5 licensing, then you get 100 megabytes per month per user with inside the ingestion. If you're bringing in other alerts from the Microsoft 365 Defender, there's certain tables within inside Microsoft Sentinel which are free as well. And typically when it comes to free services, the service that you get for free, genuinely, they're not that useful, but genuinely when it comes to Sentinel, the free tables are. You can bring in your Azure AD logs and your sign-in logs, which are, you'll find a huge amount of information in there. Where you may not want to be. So Sentinel being a security platform, you want to be sending security alerts into your workspace. You may not be wanting to send performance metrics from your virtual machines in there, so you can be quite smart around the kind of logs that you're sending in. And this is where dealing with experts like HTG and Netitude, where you get the service configured, best practice really comes into it. Again, there'll be further links at the end of the presentation where there's more deep dives and further insights into the pricing from Microsoft.
Okay, right, I'll take back over again now, and I'll give you a high-level overview of what's a typical deployment and implementation activity look like for a customer. You can't and shouldn't deploy security tools without ensuring that you understand what the threats are to that customer. So, I mean, from a Netitude perspective, we may do things different to some providers, but we have a way that works for us, and we have a way that's very successful. We've been leading threat-led engagements for a long time, and our company places a huge amount of value on delivering threat-led security services backed by threat intelligence. So one of the first elements that we perform with a customer is to perform a threat modeling workshop. We'll assess the client's attack surface. We'll assess what's important to each client. I'm sure all clients have got what they like to call the crown jewels of a server environment or an ERP or a CRM environment that holds massive amount of customer data. We go through and help understand the customer, understand their own risks, what's critical to them. Because from doing that, we can then map threats to detections that we need to have in place. And this is absolutely critical. So by performing business intelligence workshops and threat-led workshops with a customer, we then produce a client report that defines how we're going to deploy the security solutions to the customer and how we're going to protect against these threats that we've assessed collectively in our partnership. Once we've done that, we're then looking to moving towards commencing the onboarding process. We onboard into Azure Lighthouse, which is the MSSP platform that has to be used to manage Microsoft Sentinel in a multi-tenant environment from a security provider perspective. The Lighthouse platform provides full and detailed granular permissions that allows the data to stay within the customer environment, but allows the operators and the security teams to reach into the customer's environment and perform the sophisticated expertise that a SOC can provide. To onboard the technology, we use custom Azure Resource Manager templates, which uses automation and deploys the following resources into a client CSP tenancy, the log analytics space. It turns on Microsoft Sentinel. We can build a number of automations that build automated connectivity to all Azure data sources. We can configure log retention, playbook, and blob storage accounts through these Azure Resource Manager templates, as well as standing up various different syslog aggregator VMs within the cloud environment that enables us to take logs easily from different sources into the log analytics space. We'd then typically move on to the connection of any third-party data connectors, and this could be anything. This could be a Salesforce instance, for example, in the cloud. This could be a Jira ticketing instance or a ServiceNow instance in the cloud. Any type of application we can integrate and connect to using the Sentinel platform. Netitude would then assist our customers in the deployment of both MMA and OMS agents. And in terms of lots of different SIM providers out there, there's always some different forms of agents, whether they be light or pro agents or FIM or RIM agents. These are very much the same capability, and these are used to ingest VM-specific data, and they're normally deployed via simple client tools that are used within a normal Windows or Linux operating environment like SCCM or group policy. Following the full deployments, the central analytics rules and playbooks repository are then connected to the client workspace so that all necessary detection rules and SOAR responses are deployed. Typically, you'd build these within your own Sentinel workspace using KQL queries. But the benefit of using a sophisticated security provider is that we have master models of KQL queries and threat detection models that we apply across multiple tools, techniques, tactics, and procedures. We also continually update these. We look after them based on threat intelligence coming from threat intelligence and also red team and offensive teams. It's a constant living life cycle of detections to ensure that we constantly keep up. And by using a centralized and sophisticated provider, we can gain the benefit, like Microsoft does, of protecting all of our customers in the same way, as well as customizing detections that are unique to them in their environment. Once we've completed all this activity, we then typically perform user acceptance testing, whereby we test every single alarm based on activity within the customer environment, and we perform acceptance into service before we then go live. At this point, this is where the service wrap commences. Service delivery manager, service reporting, security reporting, looking at incidents, trends, volumes, and how we help you improve your maturity. Next slide, please, Gary. Over to Gil.
Thank you, Andy. So as you can see from the slide, this is an overview of the Managed Sentinel XDR service and Latitude's managed service. So it's 24/7 global SOC, staffed by a highly certified analyst team that's based out of our central SOC that is in the West Midlands of the UK. Managed through Azure Lighthouse multi-tenant management. This will be covered off in the next slide in more detail by Alan from HTG to give an oversight of how the Azure Lighthouse works. We partner with HTG as our Microsoft Gold partner. This gives us the ability to provide expertise in all Microsoft security products. So over and above Sentinel and Defender, we can advise and work with HTG with all of our clients to show the real benefit through the full suite of security products provided by Microsoft as part of your licensing agreement with your CSP. So we deploy the Latitude proprietary sophisticated and mature detection suite. We don't use out-of-the-box alerts and alarms. We have more than over 300 that are custom made and ready to go through the service to give you guys the detection and the assurance that this service is configured and implemented correctly for you as an organization. It's rapid delivery and assisted onboarding. We have project managers that sit within the SOC, and the onboarding time from start to finish is 2 weeks for us to get this service onboarded and deemed as live. It's near to real-time response as you can get. So prevent, detect, investigate. So we want to work with you to identify any activity in near real time as it takes place within your environment. We'll work with you to investigate that situation and ultimately remove the threat and move you guys forward in a secure manner. The SOAR playbook comes into play here, and we use it for case creation within the service, again, to maximize the output and to help you understand and realize Sentinel's full potential as a service. There's proactive regular threat hunting activity that is also part of the Sentinel service. Again, working with Latitude and HTG will utilize that full potential. And there's also the threat hunting and the threat intelligence that we can take through the SOC and feed into your managed service. As I said, Lighthouse is going to be covered on the next slide in more detail to give everybody an understanding of how that feeds into the service. So I'll hand over to Alan.
Thanks, Gil. Andy touched briefly on Azure Lighthouse and what Azure Lighthouse is and how it's utilized within inside the offering from Latitude. So Azure Lighthouse was created by Microsoft as a way for MSSPs or other MSPs or even organizations with multiple subsidiaries to manage multiple Azure subscriptions from a single pane of glass. So what will happen from Latitude and running the SOC and the MSSP, as they onboard customers, the customer Sentinel lives within inside the customer's Azure subscription. The customer's Azure subscription is onboarded via a JSON template back into Azure Lighthouse, and that Azure Lighthouse is then operated by Netitude's SOC team, and that gives Netitude the single pane of glass across all their customers, so they can see in real time if there's threats and hunting, rather than having to jump into each individual customer one at a time to look at the monitoring and look at proactive remediation that needs to go on. Lighthouse just gives that single pane of glass for it. So the permissions are controlled at the Lighthouse layer. And from a security perspective, people get worried today about supply chain attacks, and particularly with MSSP and MSPs, so that if an MSSP gets attacked or infected, that will go straight through all the MSSP's customers. With Azure Lighthouse, HTG has worked with Netitude to install just-in-time elevation of privileges for the Azure Lighthouse resources and the rules. It's also leveraging multi-factor authentication and justification by the analyst. So the analyst will only have the permissions into a customer's environment when they're actually working for that customer. Once the analysts have finished, they will revert back to a standard user, and they won't have the access back into the customer environment. And in terms of onboarding, HTG being a Microsoft Gold partner, we are in the process of rolling the onboarding of Sentinel and the Lighthouse through the Azure Marketplace. So that will be, once that should be ready in a few weeks, that will just be a single click for a customer for their subscription. It gets onboarded into Lighthouse, and then Netitude pick that up and the configuration for it. And the next phase of that automation will actually be the deployment of Sentinel as well, all done by code, which gives that repeatable, consistent experience across the entire customer base. Hopefully I've covered off everything we need to on Lighthouse. If there's any further questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat and they will be picked up. And as promised at the end of the presentation deck, there is the further reading useful information, a few more deep dives in there. I believe the presentation is going out to everybody who's attending today. And on behalf of myself and Netitude, thank you very much. And I will hand you back to Mark for the closing comments.
Thank you very much, Al. So that's the end of our webinar today. Thank you once again to all three of our speakers and our delegates for taking the time to attend today. As a reminder, you will receive a survey via email asking you for your feedback. It only takes 2 minutes to complete, and we'd very much like to hear what you have to say. And on Tuesday, you will receive a second email with the slide deck and a link to the recording. If you are unsure about your GDPR preferences and would like to make sure you receive that email, please leave your name in the chat box before you leave today, as well as any questions that you want to ask, or you can answer that, or you can ask those questions via your survey email as well. So that's all from us, from everyone at Netitude and HTG. Goodbye, and we hope you have a great bank holiday weekend. Take care.